So the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, now in Washington. We heard from the Prime Minister and the American president a short time ago. They will talk about trade, of course, and defense. Let's discuss this with Diamond Isinger, former advisor on Canada-U.S. relations in the Prime Minister's office under Justin Trudeau. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
You heard the American president talk about the tariff situation in particular as being complicated. How do you interpret that?
I mean, complicated to say the least. We obviously have a very complex trading relationship with the United States in terms of the flow of goods and services back and forth across the border, but also the complexity of the relationship right now. Today's meetings are an important opportunity for the two leaders, Carney being a new leader for Canada, to have some face time together and hopefully clarify each other's intentions as we head into even more trade talks to come.
Do you think that the relationship now between Canada and the U.S. and the leaders in particular is one of the most complicated we've seen between the two countries?
Perhaps. I mean, early signals out of today's meetings, there's a bit of a balance between fun and lighthearted, but also serious and a focus on getting to a deal. We're heading into a CUSMA renegotiation process, a review process over this coming year, and it is only going to get more complex. One item that hasn't really been clarified yet by the U.S. government, to my knowledge, is what the scope and the scale of that process will look like and what businesses and Canadians can expect to see.
Okay. As you know, there are two keywords negotiators often use: manage expectations. Tell me why that's key, especially in discussions like we're seeing today.
Yeah, I mean, a win out of today would be, at its simplest, a stronger and better relationship between the two leaders with a better sense of each other and a better rapport. But of course, negotiators, the Canadian government and its officials are managing those expectations, because until something is in writing or announced formally by the two leaders, be that something small to medium sized today or something big in the future, we know with this president that we can't take anything for granted until it's actually solidified. So I think it's important for Canadians to be willing to hold out a bit for the right deal as opposed to the quickest possible deal, particularly because while there is short-term pain for businesses and Canadians, the worst outcome would be years and years of pain through a poor deal that we reach together.
Okay, so based on what you've said, we shouldn't expect any, for example, tariff relief or movement on tariffs at all.
There may be. I mean, it's up to the two leaders to announce today. There were some positive signals in their brief joint media activity heading into that meeting out of the Oval Office today. There could be some opportunities for some incremental shifts on specific sectoral tariffs like steel or aluminum or otherwise. But I think more broadly, it's laying the groundwork for this lengthy and potentially quite complex CUSMA review process that's going to be underway, and the concerns of so many sectors across Canada about the impacts on their business.
Diamond, what do you think Washington really wants from Ottawa in a broader perspective?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, there's been, in these last months, there's been a combo of rhetoric from the U.S. about annexation. There's been certainly the very clearly stated desire of the president to bring jobs back that he feels have been lost to other countries, like Canada. I think it's ultimately, though, at this moment, the pressure coming from Americans themselves, rising costs for Americans, rising costs to consumers of tariff effects being passed along. I can't imagine that key business leaders in the United States are not right now in the ear of the president and his key team members suggesting that change needs to happen and that this situation needs to be resolved, because ultimately it's pain for Americans just as much as it may be a challenge for Canadians.
Do you think it's possible we could end up with bilateral agreements instead of a trilateral trade agreement that we have right now? Would that be better or worse for Canada if we did go that route?
It's hard to say if it would be better or worse. I mean, ultimately, the devil's in the details, or the reality of the agreement is in the text of that agreement. There have been discussions over the last years about, at different points, Mexico or Canada having the better standing with the United States to try to broker something one-on-one with American partners. Ultimately, I believe we are strongest as a North American trading bloc and unit. The opportunity, especially given the integrated nature of our jobs, our supply chains, particularly in the automotive sector, to suggest that we can carve off for example, Mexico from that and just focus on Canada and the U.S. might be ignoring just those fundamental business realities.
Are you seeing any signs that the U.S. has been negatively affected by tariff? You mentioned, Americans are going through similar pains. What are you seeing that you think could pressure the president to have a little bit give in the trade talks?
Yeah, the president has always been someone that has a lot of different voices in his ear. He's out and about across the U.S. all the time, talking to friends, stakeholders, business leaders, others. Certainly, that was a focus of our advocacy and outreach back circa 2017, 2018, during the first NAFTA renegotiation. The idea of reaching those unlikely voices to influence the president. We've seen just, I believe, yesterday, there were some American governors up in Canada for a conference at which I believe Premier Ford and Premier of Quebec were there. And they were saying that their own constituents in their own states are facing those rising costs, those pressures, those effects on their jobs, especially, again, because of the integrated nature of our economies and our supply chains. It's quite short-sighted to be placing new tariffs on Canada when those inputs are required for things that Americans are making as well.
Got it. Diamond, I have to leave it there. Appreciate you joining us on the program today. Diamond Isinger is a former advisor on Canada-U.S. relations for the Prime Minister's office under Justin Trudeau. Thanks for that.